Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the season premiere of Supernatural Back into the Future. And this was pretty much your typical kind of Supernatural episode. It really wasn't technically horrible, but you felt a lot of coincidences popping up to move the plot along to certain degrees, and there's sprinklings of interesting ideas, but of course we'll have to see if the potential is executed on well enough or if they even go that route. So we start off the episode, well, with the whole recap of everything that came before, and no, carry on my wayward son. It's just what it's become at this point. I'm like, okay, we'll probably get it at some point, but this is how you like to start it off before, since you've changed up to getting to this end point, so why switch it up now? So we are back at the graveyard, and we see pretty much what we think are zombies or whatnot attacking the Winchesters and Cass, and I mean, granted, it's got some nice special effects going on. They're pretty much trying to beat their way out and gets kind of closed in and everything. But Cass pretty much picks up Jack's body and they hoof it and they pretty much barricade themselves in a mausoleum. And they're pretty much trying to figure out what to do and how to kind of escape. Sam kind of gets an idea that there's like a water thing over here, so let's kind of dig under there. Nope, oop, zombie damn thing. And Cass fucking smashes it with the pretty much piece of stone that they had removed to get at the bricks underneath, and then we see that Jack's body gets up and starts walking around and talking. Well, evidently, with all of the souls and everything released from hell, as we start learning on throughout the rest of the episode, somebody's like, hey, I'm out and I'm gonna get a body. Pretty much introducing himself as Belphegor, and I actually liked this aspect because it allowed Jack's actor to not play evil Jack. It's an actual different character and he does it pretty well. I'm not like annoyed with him. I'm like, okay, this is a new twist. Pretty much introducing himself as essentially a kind of desk demon, saying that he's not a black eyes demon or anything, but that he would receive souls, torture them, move on, do his kind of thing, and he just kind of wants to get back to his job. Even going and fishing around to kind of like find some sunglasses to kind of take care of the whole eye thing going on with Jack, since his eyes are burnt out. But granted, he can act like he can see, and I don't know. It seems kind of weird because I know he could probably sense other things, but he's acting like he can see through his eyes and everything, so we'll have to see what's going on later. Of course, we don't know if we trust all of this, and he's like, hey, I know you got a problem there, but you're gonna have to kind of trust me. I kind of have a way that we can muck with what's going on out there and make sure that you guys don't like sitting here and starve or get ripped to shreds. So he's like, hey, this is pretty convenient. The things that I need for the spell are graveyard dirt, picks up, and angel's blood. This is the last time that this great confluence of coincidences happens in this episode. I don't mind that they happen, just dress it up a little bit better. He's like, hey, yeah, does it. They go outside, they see that all the souls have been cast out from the bodies that they had, and that this isn't a kind of actual zombie scenario. It's more that these souls of hell have been unleashed and they can go into whatever body they so choose. And it's like, hey, there's a graveyard, there's all of them. I like try to figure out what's going on, and of course Cass is pissed off that there's a demon inside of Jack's body, pretty much wanting to kill the abomination. But it's like, hey, he kind of helped us out. We're trying to figure out what's going on. We got to see what's going on. So they kind of get an info dump a little bit as they're driving with Baby, and Belle pretty much is like saying, hey, you'd probably let out like 2-3 billion souls from hell. That's about like the population that they had. It's like, that's not good. We're going to have to kind of get people away from here. He's like, hey, well, I've got a way to do that. I've got a way that we can kind of contain them in one area, so let's kind of do that. While this is going on, we have the actual kind of usual opening of Supernatural going on. We see like teen girls pretty much having their own little party as we get pretty much the Bloody Mary popping up. We see another house that deals with the killer clown ghost dealing ons, and we see that a woman in white is also going on. So all of the past things that Sam and Dean have pretty much killed now have come up into the field. They even stop by a car and they're like, hey, wait a minute, this is a woman in white. This might be our woman in white. It's like, oh, we gotta get out of here. Because if all that shit's unleashed, they need to make sure this is all contained. Now, I don't mind having trips down memory lane, but this opens up a scenario where we're essentially going to be getting recycled kind of content of, oh, don't you remember this monster that they killed? And be like, oh, God, okay, alright. I don't mind callbacks, but when it completely dominates it, you start to have issues. So, they pretty much go in. Their idea for the town is to pretty much get everybody out and pretty much contain it to this town. Sam goes off to be his FBI self, be like, hey, there's like some problem that we got to get everybody out of town for, so that way we can conveniently get it just contained here. Dean was going to have Cass go with Belle, but he's like, I can't look at him, and decides to go with Sam. Now, this is where it kind of starts getting a little bit wonky. I know that Cass has to act in this episode really messed up about like what's going on with Jack and everything like that. I don't really have that much of an issue with it, but it really kind of goes into something was off with Jared Padalecki in this episode. It's almost doing this as the final season is like a big thing for him, and I understand that, but Sam is acting really kind of down, or more so when he's like going through the town and dealing with like the clown scenario than I would think that his character would be. I understand he would be sad with Jack and God and everything going on, but it's something felt off with him on this episode. I just couldn't really shake it. So they're going off and doing their thing. We get Belle pretty much talking really weirdly with Dean, being like, hey, everybody's kind of like more attractive. Oh, when I was a human, we were worshipping a penis-shaped rock and everything. It's like, hey, you're pretty too. And it's like, okay, that kind of seems like he's trying to, at some point, maybe want to go over and take over Dean. And he's like, hey, yeah, I could have bolted at the graveyard, but they were all kind of worm food, and I kind of want a better one that I can blend in better with. Yeah, okay. And it says, well, okay, to do this spell, I'm going to need a bag of salt and a human heart. Okay, so now we essentially get into wheel spinning mode scenario, where a lot of shit kind of just kind of goes along. We do get some information going through, but it pretty much just tried to eat up time until we get to the points that we can have everything done. We see Sam and Cass going through. Cass finds the Bloody Mary kind of dead teens. Sam is able to find the mother and daughter that are being chased by the killer clown, and he conveniently puts down his shotgun and he gets slashed by the clown, but Cass comes in, rock salts the motherfucker, and is able to heal that, and this is where we get one bit of important information. He tries to heal the bullet wound, but says there's just a strange energy in there that he's never felt or encountered before, and we see this weird kind of vision with like Sam being kind of like crazy, and not like crazy, but going blah, and a red kind of thing. So I'm thinking that if we're going to be going with this, since it kind of was supposed to link the people with the whole equalizer gun scenario, that Sam is probably going to have to die to kill God if that is the route that is going to be going. I don't know they've got a general idea of at least a plan for what the whole God scenario is going to be happening for, but the thing is, we had a kind of God scenario in this show, Preacher, that went completely crazy, antagonistic, bastard-ass motherfucker, and it's going to kind of be hard for this to kind of top that, so we'll have to see how they kind of shake it out. At this point, when we get to the end of the episode, it's more of a like, oh, God's left us, so if we win this apocalypse, we're good and home free. I'm like, okay, we'll have to see how that goes. But they get everything pretty much squared away. They get the mother and daughter, and they're trying to pretty much run, but they get beset by the rest. Got a hatchet wielding lady. We got a really tall dude. Got clown dude. And we got Bloody Mary kind of popping up out of the water. And while this is going on, we see that Belle and Dean are having their own little chat, their own little info dump, talking about what happened in hell when everything was going down. It's like, well, we were doing business as usual. Then all the doors were open, and he's like, "What do you mean all the doors were open? Even like the cage?" And because once he started going there, I'm like, okay, what about the cage? And thank God, yeah. But from what we know, Michael was just sitting there in the cage. So I swear to God, if we go through this whole season and nothing is done with Adam and Michael, the fuck? Even though that this is almost essentially setting up not an exact scenario, but a similar scenario to Apocalypse World with Michael ruling it that God had done in the Apocalypse World. It's like, okay. And we'll have to see kind of how that plays out, because we don't know if Belle is who he says he is. I almost got vibes that it could have potentially been Michael, and that would introduce some interesting kind of things going on, but we'll have to see. So hopefully that's a good little lead that, yes, they understand that everybody is talking about Michael and Adam, and that it is a plot point that definitely needs to be resolved. I don't trust them to like execute on that potential or effectively do something with it, but hope is eternal. We'll see. So they're like, okay, let's kind of go everywhere. See, pretty much the sheriff's pretty much got everybody out of town. They're looking around, and they're like, hey, how about we stop at the morgue? He's like, a fresh heart's kind of better. So, you know what? That red shirt sheriff dude, he has to fucking die for that. So, we get the obligatory woman in white, pretty much kills him, like, instantly, and then Belle's like, hey, this is pretty fucking convenient. Plunges his hand in his chest, and like, got that heart. And then, of course, they do their own little weird dance with the woman in white, which then links up with Sam and Cass having their shotgun fight with, the other ghosts that were around them. And this was another plot point. It was never really mentioned what happens to ghosts when they are purified. Like their bones salted and they're let to be moved on from the world. If these were ones that were released from hell, why wouldn't they be demons? Or is there a tiered system? Like ghosts get put down in there but they don't become demons, humans become demons? How does the demon process work? It's just really kind of course, not really explained very well, but it's like, oh, okay, all these ghosts are back. We'll have to see kind of how that pans out. And we get their fight. It's okay. It's definitely not the best, essentially, because it's really just localized to ghosts and everything. But they're pretty much running by. We see that Belle gets slashed on his hand, but Dean's able to hold off the woman in white long enough for Belle to do his thing. And we see this red circle pop out and kind of pretty much contain everything. Sam and Cass are able to get the mother and daughter duo past the barrier, and they move along. And then the next point that we see towards the end of the episode is that, yeah, it worked, and even though Dean and Belle were in the epicenter of this, we're somehow able to get out of there all right, not having to like deal with any other ghosts, because even though there's a lot of ghosts and a lot of demons and everything let loose, they really are just limited to showing just these kind of entities. I'm like, okay, it's fine. It's moving the plot along. That's kind of all we got. So we see them kind of pretty much dealing with the fallout of this, checking with everybody to be okay. The little girl, of course, says her thank yous to everything going on because they pretty much got the info of like, Cass is an angel. Sam shot God. Holy crap. That's crazy. And got them off on their way. Of course, Belle's kind of having his little moments with like Dean and Cass. Cass is like, screw you, stay away from me, motherfucker. And he's like, alright, I'll just kind of like hang out back here. So he's kind of let on his own. So I'm like, okay, this will be an interesting addition. Dean, of course, did get in contact with Rowena and everything, and she's appraised to the situation. So we'll have to see what their whole spiel is going to be about and how this is going to be handled. Of course, we get Sam and Dean kind of doing their heart-to-heart and kind of setting up the whole rest of the season of, oh, okay, it's just us versus 2-3 billion souls from hell. And I'm like, Dean's like, yeah, I like those odds. I'm like, that's what you've always been doing. Granted, never all at once, but that's always kind of been their thing. And, of course, Sam's delivering his kind of hopeful thing. I'm like, you know what? Screw God. If he just leaves us like this, we win this apocalypse. We don't have to worry about his ass again. I'm like, really? If he gets bored, he could just go back and, like, fuck with you guys. That would be a very big-ass problem that you would have to deal with. So we'll have to see how long that whole kind of attitude of, yeah, I mean, I like the general idea of it, but it's like, okay, in practice, usually these motherfuckers are like, it's the Winchesters, fuck them, because that's usually what kind of happens. So, one thing that I didn't like is also that we didn't get any updates on Jack and the Emptiness with the Emptiness entity and Billy, Death, and anything on, like, Amara, because you would think Amara would be like, hey, Dean, you need help kind of killing God or whatnot, since that's kind of like what she wanted to do a couple seasons ago, and see how that kind of worked out. I don't know. I'm interested to see if hopefully those elements come into play. It wasn't the worst episode, but it definitely showed off the typical weaknesses that we have had leading up into this final season, where we get the usual kind of things going on, filler kind of stretched out episodes, get some interesting info dumps, and then hopefully we'll get some kind of payoff. But the thing is, I don't have faith that those payoffs will usually be done well. So we'll kind of have to see. It wasn't the worst kind of start, but definitely not the best at all. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.